Hello, Wake Up New Zealand, Carol Seeker speaking. Well, how much does this damn government actually care about New Zealanders? And I would say jack shit. UN Secretary General in February this year warns UN nation states to be on high alert terrorism, Isil, Daesh. That's February 2023. As New Zealand, visa officers are told to ignore criminal activities as to migrants entering New Zealand and to fast track them on a face basis. Don't look into attached documents. Ignore criminal behaviour. So this is our completely corrupt government that we have right now. They are called under documentation irregular migrants. That means illegal migrants. So I learned this through opposing the UN Global Compact of Migration in 2018. So non-legal becomes legally okay. So in this case, we're talking about dummy visas were allegedly approved, a system that's completely corrupt and put people of New Zealand at high risk. The security of New Zealand is at high risk when visas are granted ignoring criminal behaviour and taking on face value. So immigration staff told Staff News about the concerns about the visa regime. A senior INZ official, Peter Elms, admitted that visas have been manipulated by bad actors. Now more staff have come forward saying they're really concerned about this. They have a conscience and they know this is wrong. And this is a serious issue right across the system, which include visitor and student visas as well as work visas and residence visas, where they've been a streamlined approach that's been mandated right across the system. So multiple officials have told staff they were told to ignore criminal convictions and investigations when granting visas to residency, to individuals, etc. They were told not to open and check statements on visa applications because that would delay the process, and they wanted to get... Actually, there was this, the more you can get through, it would be a shout out for the officer who could get more visas through in a certain time. And when any officer actually complained about it, they were overruled by senior managers. It was reported there were genuine concerns of exploiting migrants in New Zealand by a senior manager. He said that they were told to let it go over their heads. The officers have said they're deeply unhappy about migration directives. A lot of officers have left their jobs and gone on to other jobs. They were emotionally affected because they wanted to do the right thing by the people of New Zealand. So, and for migrants as well, they didn't want migrants exploited. So we're talking about migrants that have committed serious crimes, still issued visas to stay in New Zealand or work in New Zealand, visit New Zealand, etc., etc. The deliberate ignoring of the serious risks to the security of the people of New Zealand, to your children, to all of you. So this has been implanted into New Zealand society. Visa staff being told to ignore alerts on clients that are criminals. Border staff not to intervene where there are question marks on newly arriving work visa holders. Do not check them out, let them go. There are tensions with many customs officers who know it is wrong. So reports of concerns and no actions taken. Referencing 200 cases per day of suspicious arrivals into New Zealand. It's putting these officers under real pressure. and given them real concerns. And it limits security barriers. And this is called a light touch assessment process. So last November, a general instruction to visa staff to reclassify some high risk applicants for a more streamlined approach. Removal of human decision making by operating system called ADEPT, ADEPT, means there's no records of areas of concern. So you've got visa branch staff under significant pressure not to open documents, just approve, and keep on approving, get as many through as possible and have a shout out. Never mind the people of New Zealand. Does the government really care about the people of New Zealand? No, they all know about this. So this talks about referencing fake bank statements, CVs, references, and pieces of paper with words tacked on it saying, bless you. They just had a free pass. So visa officers threatened with performance improvement plans to make enough decisions to hurry through, accelerate visas, and they get shout outs for those who passed many visas. So visa staff have spoken out because they cannot see themselves as being able to force change within this. So they said that, to do this, we have to bring it to media attention. And that's just what they've done. They've reported Stuff News, and this has come out on RNZ Media. Its acting head of immigration, Katrina Robinson, said that government agencies constantly reviews and adjust settings to speed economic recovery. Open borders. Well, I talked about open borders in 2018 and the risk of human trafficking, child trafficking. So, they've gone ahead and done this. And Winston Peters, he actually was the MP who actually pushed this along, this UN Global Compact on Migration that allowed for irregular and regular migrants, irregular being illegal. So, and this is what's happening now, crossing open borders. So, fraudulent visas, applicants, migrants entering New Zealand who are criminals. So this leaves New Zealand open to exposed human trafficking, organised crime, illicit goods, weapons and drugs, illegal immigration by individuals of terrorist groups, jihadists. Human trafficking is a global business generating approximately 150 billion a year or much more. So in illegal profit, forced labour, sex trafficking, child trafficking through open borders. So in 2018, it was said children make up about a third of human trafficking worldwide. And they're the vulnerable ones. And this was reported by a UN agency. So I see the risk to the security of New Zealanders, a very serious one, when the visa applications of people crossing our open borders have criminal convictions and other documented papers that it ignored. It is a huge security risk to New Zealand. So they go on to talk about, I've got a report here about, it was NZSIS government report as to New Zealand's security threat for 2023. And they mention the Christchurch terrorist attack of an Australian, not a New Zealander, who committed this terrorist attack on 50-odd Muslims in Christchurch. And then I go on to read and study the Christchurch Royal Commission Inquiry, where 17 questions were asked of the inquiry as to who or what group the Muslim community in Christchurch may have been fearful of before the attacks. And they said Daesh up to and at the time of Ramadan. So this doesn't say this here, but the UN have clearly said, the Director General of the UN have clearly said that UN nation states are threatened by Daesh and Isil. So reports, we're talking in that report as to NZIS, as to 2023 threats to New Zealand, they report the traditional identity, faith, and political motivations are still identified as violent extremists, and that's what they put. So the traditional identity, faith, and political motivations are identified in violent extremists. So there you go. But then in New Zealand, there is also a threat of external threats by the CCP interfering in New Zealand. And that is clearly played out here. So New Zealand, the traditional, after that, they say that the monitoring, a new trend has emerged around the edges. They call this CCP and Islamic Public, ISIL, Daesh, etc. So that's from UN. So we go on to the 11th of August. Time News this year reported that New Zealand SIS said China is the main exponent of foreign interference into the Pacific nation. New Zealand SIS stating there are a small number of states who attempt foreign interference have the ability to cause significant harm to New Zealand. And they referred to Chinese individuals and groups that collaborate with the CCP, and NZSIS is aware of ongoing activity in and against New Zealand linked to the CCP, which is of complex intelligence concern for New Zealand, the wariness of China in the Pacific. And the UN Security Council, 10th of February 2023, warns UN nation states that Daesh ISIS threats remain high. Said the threat has increased in the areas of active hostilities where the terrorist group and its affiliates are active. The level of terrorist activity continues to be a concern to all member states. That's what the Secretary General of the UN said, and he refers to the radicalisation, the recruiting of new supporters for Daesh and Isil. Well, Daesh, Isil. That one in the same, ISIS, Daesh, Isil. Yet in New Zealand, this government has enacted out open borders to criminals, ignoring any criminal behaviour and letting them enter our country, not checking supporting documents. This is a huge security risk to New Zealand. So I have all the links here so you can follow up on them, and I'm going to put them on my website, and I put the link to my website on here so you can see this is credible. This is not bullshit. This is absolutely true. And please share, and please go check it out. Wake up, New Zealand. They don't really, this government does not care about the people of New Zealand. They put you at significant risk, you and your families and your children. Wake up, New Zealand.